Welcome to At Night, a program that challenges your reality. What you're about to hear is a person's account of the facts as they were experienced. We're not here to prove or disprove, or even make sense of it. You are invited to explore a sometimes alternate reality that only takes place at night. I woke up in the hospital. What I thought was a bad dream, unfortunately, was a reality. But I had my own room. Guess it wasn't that bad. But I looked down and my legs and feet were all bandaged up. I think I was out for a couple days. The nurse noticed that I was waking up and she asked how I was doing. I said okay. Then she said a couple of people needed to speak with me about a report. And if it'd be all right if I let them in. I said, okay. 2 people came into my hospital room. The first one, Mike, he looked like a Mormon. He was slightly balding, late 40s. His hair was all slicked back and he had these 1950s glasses, wearing a narrow tie and a white shirt, and this all-in smile like a true believer. I mean, the only thing missing from this guy was the name tag. The other guy, Bob, well, he looked rough like a biker. They couldn't have been more opposite. He was stocky and taller of the two. He was wearing a flannel shirt and jeans, but he asked questions like a cop. I was a little loopy from the pain meds and I guess the whole experience. And they asked me a whole bunch of questions, and I kept thinking, who are these guys? I mean, they started out all friendly, and how was I doing and that. And then aside from the first names, they never told me who they were, or who they were with. But I tell you, they acted like cops. I mean, really comfortable asking questions. Like it was routine for them. They said they needed my help to fill in some of the details of the police report. They started out by saying, can you tell us what happened the other night? Well, I told them about a deer jumping in front of my car and some other animal, and I almost drove off the road, but I was able to stop, but my car stalled out. I had hoped to call for a tow truck, but I didn't have a cell signal. I decided to walk, and, well, I don't know. That was when this thing, whatever it was, started chasing me, and I didn't know what it was, but it was big and it moved on 2 feet. And the same thing chased me into a drain pipe, and then I guess tore up my legs and feet, and that's all I remember. Mike said, yes, you were attacked by a bear. I said it was no bear. Bob said it was a bear. The cops saw it, and the doctor who treated me says that the injuries matched other bear attacks. I just disagreed. Mike asked if I had been taking any medications or drugs, and if I did, it was okay, I could tell them. Then they said they were probably pretty sure they would be out of my system anyway and they wouldn't make it in part of the official report. They just wanted to know. Bob chimed in and said there was also no problem with the cell signal, so they didn't understand what I was talking about. I tried to flag down a driver and, well, that person called the police. This unidentified driver who called 911 reported a crazy person running down the middle of the road who jumped in front of their car. And Bob said that I almost caused an accident and the driver was too afraid to stop. Bob continued that the police found me in a drain pipe unconscious and they needed the paramedics to help get me out. I told him I didn't remember that part. But I did remember that my cell phone might have recorded what happened. at least the attack. Mike said they didn't find my cell phone. And I told him again it wasn't a bear. They were pretty insistent, though, that it was a bear, and they asked me again if I'd been drinking or taking any drugs that night because they found an empty whiskey bottle in the bed of my pickup truck, and if I had any idea how it got there. And I told them I wasn't drinking, I didn't take any drugs, and I wasn't chased by a bear. Then they told me that my truck didn't have any problem starting and that somebody drove it into town and they didn't need a tow truck. I told them it wouldn't start. That's why I had to walk. Well, they told me they didn't want it to turn bad for me. That they'd all been there, bad day at work, have a few drinks, not able to drive home, and it was okay with them. Just to admit it. Then they said here's what they suggested. They wanted me to recognize that it was a bear, and they didn't want me calling the local newspaper or some damn monster on the loose story to scare all the locals. Then they told me how much they liked me and I was a hard-working guy with no priors, and they wanted to make sure I didn't get a DUI and lose my license. Well, that's all I needed to hear. I was exhausted. Probably the meds or everything else I'd been through, and I gave in. Okay, it was a bear. What difference would it make anyway? Mike wrote down a phone number on a piece of paper and gave it to me just in case I remembered anything else. Then Bob said, hey, it's been a rough couple days. We'll have someone bring the truck over to your house. We'll need someone to drive you home when the doctor says it's okay to check out. Well, I checked out. Yeah, my truck was sitting in the driveway when I came home. And I did remember a couple details later. I called the number that Mike gave me. It was disconnected.
Now let's hear the beginning of the story.
I live near Yosemite and do basic handyman and home remodeling projects around Northern California. I just started a new project. Rich tech guy from San Francisco. He has a few rental houses in the area, and I was helping to get one of them ready, getting somebody moved in. I started making a few small repairs, but it was getting dark and there was no electricity in the rental. So I locked up, put my tools in the truck, started my drive home. I drive an old F-150 pickup. Got a lot of miles on it, but it's good for what I do. I was driving down Route 49 near Mariposa. That's right next to Yosemite. It was late October and it was getting dark earlier. I remember because it was around 6 o'clock. The sun was setting, the day was over, and I was on my way home. I don't know if you ever drove 49, but it's got a lot of twists and turns, and this time of year, well, you got to keep a close eye out for deer, especially in the fall, especially when it's dark. I turned on the radio and I was adjusting the station when two animals run in front of my car. The first I know was a deer. The second, I don't know. I didn't know what it was then. I still don't know, but it was big. And the whole thing happened so fast. I swerved and I hit the brakes at the same time. I was fighting real hard to stay on the road. The truck skidded for about 50 feet and it stalled in the gravel shoulder. I remember my legs shaking because I almost drove down into a ditch. I took a minute to collect myself and I tried to start the truck. I got that click, click, click. I was mad because I had just paid $300 to put in a new alternator and I knew that sound. There's no electricity to turn over the car. I tried it again. Still wouldn't turn over. Well, I checked my cell phone. I had battery, but no signal, no bars. I was in one of the dead spots. No cell coverage. And on this stretch of road, there's not much traffic during the day, much less at night. And quite honestly, I don't know if I'd give myself a ride if I were driving down the road. So, thinking about my situation, I guess it was best to start walking, and at least until I get a cell signal, and then I could call for a tow truck and maybe get towed into town. It was getting cooler, so grabbed my cell phone, tossed it in my jacket, and started walking. The sun was down, and there was just the final light before it gets dark. I looked out, and I saw black trees against a purple sky with no moon, no stars. I thought about how the deer and the other animal were gone. Well, on the bright side, no one was hurt. My truck was okay, and it was a nice night for a walk. I looked back after about 20 minutes and saw my car was now out of sight. At that point, I heard a howl. It was a howl like nothing I'd ever heard before. It started low and deep-pitched, went into a high-pitched scream, and I could feel it in my chest. I'd grown up around forests, hunting, and I knew it wasn't a coyote or a mountain lion. I mean, I live out here. I know what's in these woods. And we don't have many wolves either. But all I can say is, I think it was close, whatever it was. I checked my phone, still no signal. I kept on walking, but I picked up my pace. After about 10 minutes, I heard the howl again. It was closer this time. It had that boom like fireworks. You feel it in your chest, like I said earlier. And you probably think I'm crazy, but I don't know. That's just how it felt. I stopped and looked around, trying to figure out where the sound came from. It was so loud, it echoed. Out here, it's all rocks and trees, but I think it was behind me, off to the left. I looked around, but I couldn't see anything. It was so dark. And I started walking again. Then I heard noises, something big. I think it was moving on two legs. Once again off to my left. And it was moving through the high grass. I figured it was just my imagination. I mean, I kind of looked over my shoulder, but I couldn't see anything and I couldn't hear anything. I walked for a couple more minutes, and then I stopped again and looked behind me. That was when I saw something move. It was about, I don't know, close to 200 yards from the road, off in the field, off to my left. I started walking a little faster. And here's another strange thing. I mean, it's like it was following what I did. So when I would stop, it seemed like it would stop too. Because I did this a couple times. And one time I caught it out of step. But I still kept thinking maybe it's just my imagination, or I don't know, sounds bouncing off the hills or something. And so I kept walking. Made around another curve, about another 10 minutes. Then I heard another howl. Even closer this time. I looked out. Now I could see an outline. It was an animal. It looked about like a bear, but I don't know, I wasn't sure. I tried to place what it could be. Man, there's coyotes and bobcats, bear, deer, maybe an occasional mountain lion, but I don't know, as big as this was, I guess it had to be a bear. Standing on its hind feet. I don't know, I'd never seen that before. And it was at the far edge of the clearing where I could just barely see its outline against a rocky hillside. That little gray of the rock kind of gave enough for me to see what it was, but it wasn't my imagination, and now it was about 100 yards away. And I couldn't tell for sure, but it looked like it was about 7 feet tall. And how it moved, like it was floating. I don't know. It's taking big strides. It looked, I don't know, maybe almost 6 feet. That was no bear. Each step sounded heavy, even that far away. But it looked light, and it moved smooth and slow. That moment, it seemed to face in my direction. Then I lost sight of it. Couldn't tell where it went. That was when I started running. I was pretty sure this thing was following me and getting closer. I still didn't have a cell signal. As around that time, the woods went all quiet. No birds, no crickets, suddenly nothing. Then I saw its outline. It was about 50 yards away. Right next to a barbed wire fence at the end of the clearing. Right where the field ended. And this thing jumped over that like it was nothing and walked onto the road. It was now right behind me. And it started running. First on 2 legs. Then it dropped down and started running towards me on all 4 like, I don't know, like some, I don't know what it was. I looked ahead and started running at full speed, and that was when I saw the headlights. An oncoming car. Maybe that would help. I tried to run towards it, waving my arms, shouting, I hope I could flag it down, get a ride, get away from this thing, whatever it was. I ran as fast as I could. Headlights kept getting closer. Then the car hit its high beams. I couldn't see anything. I dropped my arms down as I was waving and had to shield my eyes because I was blinded. The driver honked their horn, and I knew they weren't going to stop, so I jumped right as the driver swerved around me. His tires squealed. He kept driving. I was flat on the pavement. My hands and knees throbbed. I knew I was all scraped up from hitting the road, and I don't know, but the adrenaline, I didn't feel anything. I got back on my feet. The car was gone. The taillights were getting smaller. My eyes were still trying to adjust. Just spots. All I could see was nothing. I tried to collect my thoughts too. My vision was returning, but it was slow. Couldn't figure out where this thing was, but maybe the car scared this thing off. I started running again. I could feel the pavement under my feet. I checked my cell phone, still no cell signal. But I knew I had to stay on the road, because I could probably run faster. The woods wouldn't offer me any cover, not against this thing. I think it was gone. About 10 minutes later, my adrenaline rush had faded, and I dropped down to just a fast walk. My heart was pounding in my ears. I could hear the sound of my breathing, but as I started to slow down, I could gradually hear and feel my feet on the pavement. I figured maybe I'm okay. Maybe it's gone. Maybe the car did chase this thing off. What was it anyway? Certainly nothing I could explain to anyone. They'd think I was crazy. So I stopped walking to catch my breath. Gave me a moment to plan. I was going to keep walking, get a cell signal, call a tow truck, and put all this behind me and never say anything about it. No one would believe me anyway. I looked ahead, kept walking, and I saw that the road was getting close to a patch of trees. And I figured if something was going to jump out, that would be the place. At this point, I was beyond fear. It was all about survival, and I was pretty sure I was being hunted by this thing. I had hoped the car chased this animal off, but I'm pretty sure it was still following me, hunting me. Because I could still hear it cutting through the high grass and the dry leaves out in the forest. It was back on two legs again. I could hear its steps. It closed the distance really quick. I couldn't see it, but I could hear the footsteps. And it was almost parallel with me, now maybe 50 feet away. Then there was nothing. I couldn't see it. I didn't hear it. But all the same, I felt like something was watching me. The hairs on my arms stood on end, and I broke into a cold sweat. It was out there somewhere. At this point, I started running as fast as I could. I had to leave the road. I knew this thing was going to close in on me. I was running as fast as I could, down the grass, down the side. Then I saw this thing rise up. It was almost 7 feet tall. I still couldn't see its features very well, but I remember a dog-like face. White teeth, big chest, shoulders, narrow arms. There was no way I could outrun this thing. And it was closing the distance. I had to think of something fast. I noticed a drain pipe for water runoff just beneath the highway. It was about 3 feet in diameter. I might just fit in that thing. Maybe that thing would be too big to follow me. So I made a run for it. I dove for the drain pipe and started crawling as fast as I could on my hands and knees. Well, this thing must have been right behind me because I could feel this thing brush against my leg as it swiped and a growl, and I crawled into the drain pipe. I crawled as far as I could, but there were tree branches and I don't know what blocking the way. I couldn't go any further. I knew it was just outside. It stopped for a minute. I don't know what I was thinking, but I reached into my pocket and I took out my cell phone. This thing howled again. I pressed the record button and I don't know, then the phone fell out of my hands as this thing started to grab for me. I saw the glowing yellow eyes, its teeth. I don't know. It tried to force its way into the drain pipe, but its shoulders were too big, so it started just reaching its arms. This thing wanted to kill me. I felt its claws. I felt it pull at my feet. My shoes were gone. I smelled copper and I could feel the blood as my jeans were shredded below the knees. The damn thing shook me so hard, I hit my head on the pipe. I wanted to pull up my legs, but there was no room. I kept kicking. I stopped feeling the pain from its sharp claws. I was dizzy and my vision was fading. Then I heard a pop, pop. Gunfire? I don't know if I was imagining things or not, but sure sounded like shots. And the clawing stopped. I saw its outline in blue and red lights. I figured I was hallucinating at that point. It growled again. I saw its outline just before I blacked out. The monster's face outlined in a bright white light. Then everything went dark. I vaguely remember being rescued and being on a stretcher and placed in an ambulance. I don't remember anything after that except waking up in the hospital.